13, please. Badham, please, table 13. Alex Lewis, please, table 24. Alex Lewis, table 24. Next match on table 10, Carl Morris, Wayne White. Table 15, Stephen Dempsey, Ross McIntyre.
Good evening and welcome back. We're back with the action, and this game is a round 2 game between Tom Cousins and Jonathan Bushnell. Welshman v Welshman, I believe. Joined by Mark Shepherd on comms again.
It's been a good evening so far, hasn't it?
It really has.
Good matchups already.
Yeah, we've seen some great matches on this stream table. Seen all of the top players. There's a few still missing on the roll, but I'm sure we'll catch them over the weekend. Neil Raybone, one of them, just down to our right hand side. He's through into the 3rd round. But yeah, this one, a battle of the 2 Welshmen.
Yeah, Tom Cousins, we were following his match on one of the outside tables. Got off to a bad start, but sorted it out. This looks like the kind of position he likes. Nice open clearance for the first frame. Good atmosphere around the room. Lots of celebrations we can hear in the background.
Yeah, as you look around the tables, the beer bottles and cans are starting to get strewn around. Oh, look at that for a delightful touch. And he's a big fella, and he hits a massive break, but he's got such a beautiful touch around the balls when he's in amongst them, and that's lovely. Just a deft touch to brush that yellow to one side, leave himself perfectly on the red, and it's just as simple as it gets now. Drop the red in, nothing to do with the cue ball.
Well, so you want to start the match?
Yeah, that's Tom Cousins at his absolute best. It's wonderful to see. 1-0 with a break and clear.
It's wonderful to see, unless you're John Bushnell, when you really like to have a shot.
Indeed. He will get his chances. Gets the break in frame number 2. Big shout out to Big Dave Roberts. Hope you're doing well, Dave. Paul said he'd been telling me off because I didn't give you a shout out earlier on, but I must have missed the request. Of course, your hero was in action in the last match, wasn't he? Christy Coldfield. You love watching a bit of Christy. He didn't perform at his best today, but still good to see him on the stream table. I know you like a bit of Christy. Don't we all?
So Jonathan Bushnell to break off in frame 2. Could be pretty happy with that. Big powerful break. Ball split up nicely. 1 yellow ball down.
Apparently Dave's got a new hero. He's got a new number 1. The man at the table, well, the man sat sat down next to Tom Cousins.
So red ball's nominated, unsurprisingly. I think John is well aware of who he's facing here and how good a start he's going to need to get. He doesn't want to let Tom get into his stride. He seems to get more and more dangerous once he's cleared a few up.
Yeah, but equally, John Bushnell, I mean, probably maybe some of the viewers not too familiar with Jonathan, but also a very, very good player. And don't be at all surprised if you see him racking up the frames in this one. He really is capable.
Yeah, part of a very solid Welsh team at the World Championships for a few years. I'm just looking at how he might get on what's probably the most difficult of the reds, the one between the two yellows on the left-hand side. So this is the round of 128. There's one more round to be played afterwards tonight, so we'll eventually get down to 32 players who will go forward tomorrow, resume action at midday. And then before that, we'll be kicking off the Open event at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. A lot of pool this weekend to be played. 256 players, each playing in 3 tournaments. Well, actually, we seem to be running surprisingly well on schedule. I thought we had so many players at this event that we were for sure going to be behind. In fact, we've got 28 tables. Seems to be helping speed things up.
Yeah, really, very much so. It's quite similar to Blackpool, actually. It was a really slick event.
Yeah, I mean, big credit to Neil Toms and the teams that have organised this. I mean, it's pretty impressive. We're sitting up in a great position in our commentary booth, looking out over these 28 tables. The work that's gone into just all looks so uniform and perfect the way they've got this set up. The amount of work that's gone into getting all these people here. It's also logistically quite a difficult event, this, because there's a load of people who don't normally play on the tour. This is the Festival of Pools, our sort of bonus event where some extra people are playing, and we've got an extra 3-man team event. So some familiar and less familiar faces.
This looks good. He did try to move this red earlier, and again, just always question when a player tries to move a ball when it has a pocket. Always, for me, easier to try and land on it than try and move it. When you move a ball, so much can go wrong. And as I mentioned on comms earlier, that's one of the big things that I took from commentating with Mick Hill. He says, you know, just never move a ball unless you absolutely have to. And the red just on the bulk line goes into a couple of pockets.
Well, ironically, he's played for it now in a way that he could have played for it when he tried to move.
Yeah.
I think the trouble is with moving it, like, the odds of knocking it on just weren't great. You could knock it into the yellow, you can knock it onto the cushion. I mean, not to say it was the wrong shot. I suppose what was in favour of trying then was that he had a lot of other options, so yeah, there was a fallback position.
Yeah, if you're going to do it early in the clearance, but ultimately, if you don't need to, then it just keeps things simple.
Ultimately played a good shot on it. You can see it was a fairly tight angle, but played it confidently. Good frame for him to win. Against someone like Tom Cousins, you've got to show him you mean business early on, otherwise he just runs away with it.
Have to be careful with this one. Yeah, that's just one of those, playing it at that pace and stunning the cue ball. It's just one of those that you can see pop out sometimes. It's pretty much exactly that pace that it happens at as well. But no such drama.
Yeah, I mean, what he's sacrificed because of the position of the yellows on the left-hand side. He's not going to be able to get perfectly round for the black. He's going to have to just sacrifice leaving a longer black. But better that than not having a shot at all. Yeah, I mean, he's gone for really the pretty cautious approach there, just screwing across the table. There wasn't really much that could get wrong anywhere on that right-hand side. He was going to have a shot. I think some players would have tried to thread the needle through those yellows, get perfect on the black.
I think he's definitely played the right shot there. Just gives himself a look at the black, and one that he definitely backs himself to get, and does. So 1 frame apiece, sharing the spoils of the first 2 frames. Who else can we see in action here? So Bradley Ellis and Ben Coles 5 apiece. Callum Singleton in action against Aaron Davis there. Aaron's 5-3 up though. Richard Gifford, the Gloucesterman, 5-3 up against Scott Rutter. Sanjay Patel travelled all the way down from Manchester. He's currently 1 behind Ben Swinnerton.
Well, we've seen a few players opt for the more controlled break. Tom Cousins has never been one to do anything other than hit it really hard. Yeah. Although actually it has to be said with pretty good control. He had the white going up and down the middle of the table.
Yeah, he's another one. We saw Jack earlier, another exponent of the front ball break, and never really changes too much to anything else but. And Tom, very, very similar.
Yeah, I mean, his advantage is not just that he's able to hit the ball hard, but he's able to hit it hard but keep control of it. I mean, a lot of people can smash at it, but it tends to be the control that suffers. Pretty good layout, just a couple of things to think about, a couple of little clusters. Reds would be good bar the one on the far right hand side of the table. Yellows, the one near the black, maybe slightly tied up. Normally the way with Tommy, spends a few seconds at the beginning of the frame deciding what route to go, and then it's pretty quick once he gets going. So opted for the red balls and has immediately moved out the only problem ball. Assume the black does pass into the top left hand corner pocket, in which case shouldn't actually need to play any cannons, can just mind his work in the middle of the table, try and keep tight control of the white. This is ideal because he's got a big pocket. He can either play this direct or in off the yellow. In fact, having moved that yellow, that's opened the black up for the middle pocket, so whether or not it goes to the corner, there's an option for it. Always really steady in this kind of position. Goes around the table with a nice tempo, always looks like he's in control of what he's trying to do. He could be keen to win one of these tour titles. There was a stage he was a pretty prolific winner, one of those world titles. Always used to do well on the tour. Probably a bit more competitive these days. There's a few extra faces he's going to find his way past. We're looking pretty simple now. Just link these up and have a natural position on the black. So no mistakes really from either player. 3 frames, 3 fairly quick clearances. Tom Cousins with 2 of them.
Sean Story playing on table 26. He's 1-0 up against Dan Bishop. Adam Davis 2-1 against Dean Wilson. Carl Morris back in action 1 each against Wayne White. Stevie Dempsey, the Dubliner, 1-0 up against Ross McIntyre. Oli Bell's playing Greg Dixon, he's 2-0 up. Black Baden's playing Silemia, it's currently 1-0. Arfin Dad back in action against Tony Blount, he's 2-1 up.
So John Bushnell to break off in frame 4. One of the players opting to use a break cue. Looks like he's opting for a slightly lighter cue. You can see not much ebony on the back of it. So opting for something light that lets him get the power on. Oh, that red just finding its way in. He'll be relieved to see that. It's a pretty nice layout on reds. Obviously that one that's tied up the top right, but fortunately there's another ball right in front of it to open it up with. Maybe able to hear the announcer in the background. The third round, the last 64 is just starting on some of the outside tables. Playing down to 32 tonight and then pausing overnight. Actually a pretty impressive feat really to get 256 players started at midday today, to get them down to 32 by the end of the day. It's really quite something.
Yeah.
Helps, of course, a decent standard of players. If you just cast your eye around the room, not just on the stream table, but not too many safety battles look to be going on. People seem to be going for their shots. So he's given this plenty of thought. It seemed he was always going to need to go for reds, but just giving some thought about the precise route.
He's had to hold up. It's okay.
The thing with these shots is what happens to the second ball. There's no problem potting the first red, but what you've got to be very careful you don't do is tie up the second one.
Yeah, he needs to catch the yellow thin. He's looking now, so catch the yellow quarter ball, which means the red's going to come back out into play. I don't think you can rely on that ball to be your next ball, so he's going to have to think about the cue ball as well. Bring the cue ball down table. I think he can just stun to side cushion and just bring it down into the gap, kind of adjacent to the middle pocket. Play to an area. If he overhits it, he's going to have a red to middle.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point you make, because a lot of people do try and play for the one that they're using to plant as their next ball, and I mean, as you can see, it's a pretty random outcome. That could have ended up in pretty much anywhere in the top of the table.
He's cursing his luck there, but it just feels like he could have controlled the cue ball a little bit better than that. He seemed to punch that harder than he really needed to. I know he was conscious that he wanted to get the red back out into open play, but it just felt like he kind of stabbed the cue ball and it ended up coming down this side of the table, but it felt like he could control it off the side cushion and just maybe come down, as I say, somewhere around about the right middle pocket, and he would have had options.
Yeah, it wasn't one where he needed that pace in order to empty the pocket out or something like that. If any touch was going to knock the first ball in, so it was a case of playing position. And the penalty for that is he's now going to have to take on this long red by the look of things. You just miss the yellow above this and come around off two cushions, he should be able to get back into good position.
Still just out. Maybe another couple of rolls would have just been a little better. Now he's having to run the cue ball into gaps where there's other balls, and this is where things can go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, he's sort of targeting where that yellow is to the right of the two reds, because you can see if you landed the cue ball there, you'd have a choice of both reds.
Yeah.
But he's not quite the perfect angle. I think he could easily end up coming to the right of that yellow, and he's got to be careful not to get stuck behind it if he does that. You see he's playing with a lot of side.
He really is. loading this up. He controlled it well, and it's still not quite ideal, but it's okay.
Yeah, it was quite an unusual way of playing that shot.
It
Like
was,
really
yeah.
digging down with bottom and side. That didn't seem the most obvious way.
Killed the cue ball off the bottom rail. Found the gap. It was effective, but as you say,
I think it's basically a shot you've got to be pretty good to play. I think if you're less good, you probably just need to roll that in slowly and not try and get clever and check it up. Just don't hit it so hard. Not totally done here though, because it's not quite a natural angle. When he pots the first red, it's not naturally going to be on the second one.
and because of that, he's looking at the cut back into the left middle. I mean, the natural choice would be the red closest to us, but as you say, it's the traffic of the two yellows and the black. What he doesn't want to do is risk equally nudging one of those yellows across the path of the black as well and tying that up. So, and trying to find that gap it's a bit intricate.
Yeah, it's not quite the natural angle. If he could go between the yellow and the black and just play up the table and leave a longer shot at the red, that would be safer. But he likes the right-hand side.
Loading up the side again. Yeah, and this time it's gone all right. You do wonder whether maybe the cut to middle was a shot. I mean, hindsight's 20/20 and all that, but
it's just a very challenging way of playing the shot, playing it with that much side. An annoying position to have left himself in, because he knows full well that almost any contact on the red, I mean, it's not even that straightforward to hit the red, but any contact on the red leaves a bundle of yellows open. He's going to do extremely well to get this safe. I guess you're playing to fluke it, really. Well, I say fluke it, I mean you could pick a pocket and try and play it, but you're playing to try and give yourself a chance of potting it, because anything else is just going to turn the table over. Well, I mean, conventionally in world rules, this isn't the worst idea. If you leave your opponent not able to use their first shot, not sure he's going to get much advantage here. I mean, it's a pretty easy opportunity for Tom just to get the white into open play and then clear up from there. I suppose you can say if you're not sure of hitting the red, which frankly he wasn't from there, you are better just doing that, because no point risking giving two shots away. Either way though, yellow's all nicely open. Tom has made a career of clearing up positions considerably more difficult than this one. Every pool player loves these clearances, the ones where your opponent moves a few balls out of the way, so you've just got a nice open position. Mainly just your balls left on the table. Plenty of options here, doesn't really matter what order he takes them in within reason.
just a little hampered, but doesn't have to do anything, so it'll be a nice simple drop in. And now you can just punch the cue ball down the table. Or come back across the table, either or.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of effortless power. I think that ball was quite straight, but able to get the power in and keep the control, which is how he forced the angle. It's not absolutely perfect, but no problem at all here. Just take this long, leave himself a medium length shot on the last yellow. This is the kind of shot he does not mind leaving himself in the slightest. There are some players that would try to get closer, but these he just has pretty much 100% record on, so has no problem leaving it slightly longer.
He does cue it well. And extends his lead to 2 frames. It's now 3 frames to 1.
Definitely a frame that John could have won there. Just that one loose positional shot at the end cost him the opportunity. At this level, that's the kind of swing factor, just one mistake. Difference between 3-1 and 2-all. So, powerful Cousins break, as we've come to expect. Sure, he does have dry breaks, but we don't seem to see too many of them. It's another pretty good opportunity. All the balls have a pocket. Nicely played shot. He's playing with a bit of side to hold for the remaining red in the bulk area. He just wants to screw down somewhere in the middle of the table. Got a little bit more angle than would have been ideal here, but can't imagine this being a problem. Whichever of these players gets through tonight will have one more match to play before they go to bed. And they'll have a slight pause in this tournament. The last 32 resumes at midday tomorrow.
It's hampered queuing again. But Tom is one of the players, I think one of the best players around at playing this shot. Now I'm going to curse him here because he'll probably miss it, but he really is. I think, well, there you go. I had to go and say it, didn't I? But
this is the first time he's missed one of those this season. Coming up here to have a word.
He honestly is one of the best players in the world at playing those where you're hampered, kind of Chinese snooker, and he's gone and made me look like a fool there.
No, to be fair, I agree with you, he is. And he's also got a very uncomplicated mindset, whereas some players are shaking their heads and ruining the fact they've ended up in that position. He just doesn't care, he just gets down and plays it. I mean, yes, you're always going to miss the odd one, but it really is pretty rare to see him miss a ball like that.
And I think that's a big thing as well, that, as you say, you just, oh well, take it in my stride. I didn't want to land there. You might see him shake his head when he misses it and walk away and think, oh, goodness sake. But actually, when he's at the table, you just don't see those histrionics. He just, as you say, takes it in his stride. Oh well, didn't get to where I wanted to be, but take it on the chin and clear up anyway.
Yeah, and it's quite a powerful thing because you avoid putting yourself under pressure, and also it just doesn't really give your opponent anything to grasp at. If you're watching a guy shaking his head and look unhappy all the time, you're thinking, well, I could have this, but you don't really get that with Tom. He just looks in control. Bit to think about here for Jonathan, not least the fact that he's slipped a couple of frames behind, which he wants to address quick smart. Just a controlled shot by Tom, just playing with a little bit of swerve to make the angle.
Just wonder if he's left the gap here between the two reds. And from there, it looks like it.
Yeah,
if
that
he has,
would be a bad outcome if he has.
yeah. If he has, then it's a great chance. Oh.
I think that was just the pace. I mean, you could have just rolled it in, I suppose, and taken the other one to the middle pocket, although it wasn't great. You can see why he thought it was best to force the cue ball up. A lot more options, but just made the pot a bit harder. He has tied up one of the reds. I don't know if Tom can get into this ball enough to flick it out. Ideally, he'd like to flick it straight out now, because if he pots one into the bottom right-hand corner and flicks the other, then he should naturally hold position.
I think he's looked at it 3 times now. I think he's only got half a pocket to aim at, which is going to cause him a bit of an issue anyway. As you say, he has to try and go after that red at the same time, but it makes the shot even more awkward. Yeah, and as a result, probably the reason he only flicked that ball, and now he's in a spot of bother.
Yeah, I don't think he's got the angle to cannon into it again. If it was just a little bit straighter, he'd have been okay with that.
I think it's one of those, if you're going to play it, you need to be able to get to the right-hand side of the ball as well, and the black's kind of covering that. I don't think he can get through to it. I'm not even sure if it was on anyway.
And the alternative options aren't too tempting, are they?
No.
I mean, it's obviously easy enough potting the first ball, but that wouldn't really help very much. Don't think he can play it slow enough to hold for a double.
I wonder if he can get back over.
Oh, this is a good effort.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, this is a really good effort.
What a shot. Well, there we were, wondering how he was possibly going to get out of that one.
Well, those ones that when you see it played, you're like, well, that's a pretty natural shot, but I mean, it really wasn't, was it?
What a super shot.
So again, a frame that John had a half chance in, but it's allowed his opponent back to the table. He's dispatched those with real class.
The lead is now 3 frames. It's 4 frames to 1 in favour of Tom Cousins.
Easy to see. You can see Jonathan winning a few frames, certainly. I mean, he's looked good for that, but it's not easy to see where winning the match would come from, because Tom is just not giving away many opportunities at the moment. Tom looks like he's enjoying himself, just laughing and joking with some people in the crowd. So, Jonathan Bushnell to break off in frame 6, trailing by 4 frames to 1. Well, that's a good solid break, got a really nice connection, but to his horror, the whites come off a few cushions and found the centre bag. And this is a frame that isn't going to take very long at all, because look at where the balls are finished up.
That's unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, if that stays on the table, these are all for him, but now he's going to have to sit in his chair and watch Tom clear them up. And this is a considerably more straightforward opportunity than the last one. Real joy in the dot stuff. No need to move the cue ball around too much. No need to take on any difficult pots.
He's just such a simple player. He has the same pace, whether he's under the cosh, whether he's on top. He just goes around the table, the same pace, the same cadence, just kind of plods around, never really takes too much time. If he needs to look at an angle, he'll come back around and look at an angle. But you know, some players where they get up off a shot and look at an angle 2-3 times, no such thing. He just might have a quick glance, but generally he's not even looking at the angle he wants the ball for the next shot. He's just playing to an area. It's like someone like Carl Morris is walking around the table to see exactly where they want the ball for the next shot.
Yeah, a lot less effort goes into it. He's not wearing himself out with worrying and walking around and overthinking things.
To be honest, I don't think Tom comes across as the kind of person that wears himself out very often.
It's a pretty laid back to me to most elements of his life.
I mean, I think the most effort he goes to in a day is probably the undoing the window to ask the lady at the McDonald's drive-through for a couple of burgers and fries. I jest.
They're breaking from slightly further off centre than some players, but still aiming for the front ball and tries to bring the white up and down the very centre of the table. By his standards, not the best break, although he still potted one.
I went for dinner with Tom in TGI Fridays once, and it was something to behold.
He cleared the table as quickly as he does on the pool table.
Oh. He got one of the the bigger things, where you get like a rack of ribs and a steak and something else, and got a side order of cheesy fries and something else, and it was and I think they delivered my meal to him by mistake, and he was halfway through that before he realised, and then just passed it over to me and then demolished the rest of his. He is one of the most laid-back characters. Got a good sense of humour. And we all know he is just fearsome on a pool table. And you look down through the draw, you just don't want to see him in your half, ever.
No, and this laid-back attitude extends to not really caring who he's playing. If he gets another top player, that doesn't really bother him that much. No. Carry on as always.
I can almost rest assured that if I interview him afterwards, which he's always reluctant to do, because he just doesn't. Just a private person who is not interested in the exposure, and he won't have a clue who he's got next. In fact, I'm going to have a look myself, just because I know he won't know. I have no interest in the draw whatsoever. I think it just turns up at the table, and whoever comes.
No, I've interviewed him before a few world finals, and it's just like, the world final, is it? Yeah, well, we'll go and play that match then, go and win that.
I think he's going to be playing Oli Bell.
Oh, that should be a tasty match.
Actually, no, I tell a lie. It looks like he's going to be playing Lackbadam, actually, sorry.
Well, that will also be a good match, but I'd have liked to see him play Oli. That would have been a very quick encounter.
Well, Oli's currently 6-1 up against Greg Dixon, and then Oli's going to play the winner of Carl Manning and Dylan Leary, and then I think they play the winner of the what will be probably Tom Cousins against Lackbadam.
Yeah, right now it's pretty much all one-way traffic towards Tom Cousins.
Yeah. I mean, we're writing off Jonathan, but I think it's 6 frames to 1, and Tom in this kind of mood, it's a forlorn hope.
Yeah, I think it went wrong for John pretty early on. Like he won the good early frame and then had a chance to make it 2 apiece. I think if he'd have done that, that could have been a different game. Although for some players, like getting them under some pressure works quite well. I'm not actually sure with Tom that you can get him under pressure that easily. He seems fairly unconcerned even when his opponent pots a few in a row. So I think it was always going to be a tough ask for John. Not done a lot wrong, it has to be said. Just let a couple of frames go. He hasn't really had any free opportunities against a different opponent. Maybe he'd have just got given a couple of frames where he'd have got left in for a clearance. He hasn't really had any of that, so he's going to have to make his own opportunities. So pretty important break for him. You've got to think if he doesn't pot a ball off this one, this could be his last shot of the match. Well, he's done almost exactly what he did last time. Cue ball tracking around the table towards that same middle pocket. Joking with Tom, very relieved to see it stay on the table. I actually like his break. He's been getting a good contact with the pack and really splitting them up. He's just been slightly losing the cue ball. So it could well be his last opportunity. He needs to make the most of it. And already that looks like it may have gone slightly wrong. I mean, there's still got some shots on, but he seems to have slipped out of perfect position. Well, that's rescued the cause somewhat. He's got on this one at the bottom of the table, which is one of the more difficult ones. I don't think you could begrudge him a second frame here. A 7-1 scoreline would be pretty harsh the way the match has gone. Certainly played his part in it. It's just his opponent has been in fairly rampant form, which hasn't been giving much away. In some ways, of course, it's easier when you're a few frames behind. Can be that the pressure's lifted. He's not realistically at this point expecting to win the match. He's just thinking maybe I could get a couple of frames. If he does get those couple of frames, then maybe you start to think about the bigger match again. In a way, it's quite reassuring that he's giving this plenty of thought. You're 6-1 down, there can perhaps be a tendency just to run around the table and dish the balls up and not concentrate quite so much. Looks like he's still fully focused on the job in hand. Few different options. He's looking at what would happen if he potted the ball top right and then took the next one into the left-hand middle pocket. I mean, the upside of that shot is that you're sure to leave yourself a shot at the second red, but the downside would be that you wouldn't necessarily leave perfect position to get to the last red. I think some players might rather play in and out of baulk with the white here. So ideally he'd like a little bit of angle just to run the white through past the 50-yard line, as it were, and down to the bottom half of the table. Looks like it might be a little bit too straight for that, perhaps. Yeah, so he had to just force an angle. That was about the best he could do. So he's going to have to leave himself a thin clip at the red. Should be fine though, because the natural angle is going to take the white off 2 or 3 cushions around the back of the black and the yellow for the black in the top right hand corner as we currently look at it. So solid visit this from John Bushnell. Clearance from the break, pulls one back. Tom Cousins now leads by 6 frames to 2. As Tom steps up to break in frame 9, he's in the luxurious position of having several of his own breaks to get the job done.
Cue ball dangerously close, and he does that a fair bit actually. You see the cue ball just tracking. He rarely goes straight in off, but often it's tracking towards that pocket, not going in, and then 2 or 3 balls knocking it, and then it's in danger of going in off. And he's left this pretty awful for a shot. Horrible playing from the jaws of the pocket anyway, but there's a yellow in the path. I think he does have a shot to middle, but yeah, that was tough. It was a tough opener. I mean, if he'd made it, it should have been frame.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a good effort actually. It was a pretty tricky shot, but yes, that has eluded him, and as you can clearly see, the Reds are also in a pretty good position. They're still very much in Lance chance saloon. John needs to win all 5 of the remaining frames to win this match. This is a decent opportunity though. I mean, if he could win this one, and then it's his break in the next one, that gets him back into the match. It's still an uphill struggle, however you look at it.
But that's all you can do, isn't it? I mean, you can only win 1 frame at a time, and you can only pot what's in front of you. So he just has to take his chances and hope he gets more. And the comeback has to start somewhere.
And encouragingly, he looks pretty composed. I was saying in the last frame that he was still taking his time and giving shots proper care and attention. Definitely doesn't look like he's seeing this match as being over yet.
I mean, it's great that there's 3 events over the weekend, but it really is a brutal format of pool when you think it's a race to 7. And some of these guys, we just spoke to Wade Morley, who came over during the break in between the frames, and he's travelled down from Middlesbrough, and they got a coach down. They got on the coach at 10 o'clock last night, and they pulled into Liverpool Street at 6:15 this morning, and then ended up at the hotel here just sometime after 7, unable to book into their room until 3 o'clock this afternoon. So. And then you turn up with a chance. I mean, okay, he's won his first 2 matches, but if you make that trip and you're playing a race to 7 and a couple dry breaks, couple shots go against you, and you find yourself out of the main event, probably only having had a few visits. It's a brutal format.
Yeah, and I mean it's tough for everyone because we were saying a moment ago, over 80% of the field is going to be eliminated by the end of today's play. So they're all going to be feeling a bit disappointed. We're on the Friday night of a 3-day bank holiday weekend. There's 2 events to come, but this is I suppose you'd say the most prestigious. This is called the main event, and is the biggest event of the weekend.
I mean, I know everyone's got their different motives for turning up, but of the 256 players, with all due respect to a number of them, some people are here making up the numbers. There's some people it would be a real shock to see them in the final.
Absolutely.
But still, they come along for the weekend of pool. It just says something about the game, doesn't it? And these kind of events, that people still support them, knowing that the chances of them hitting a final are pretty remote.
Yeah, for the most part, everyone here is a good player, so the choice they've made is they could enter local events where they'd be one of the favourites or the favourite to win it, but they've chosen to test themselves against really good quality opposition where they know they'll probably lose in the first few rounds. Yeah,
that's a good point. It's a good point, and sometimes that is the only way that you can improve.
Yeah, I mean, when you play the same people and you keep winning, you can believe you're one of the best players around, but actually you come here and then you realise how many good players there are and what really good looks like, and sometimes you do just need that kick. And of course you learn something by watching them play as well.
Yeah, I think that's basically what it feels like if you live in Barrow-in-Furness. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, it tends to be the way good players end up getting grouped together in localities, clubs, whatever, but I mean, I guess sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's they all sort of drag each other up to a higher standard.
Sorry, the Barrow joke was a... It's like I knew I'd get a message. That one was aimed at Kyle Brown. He's, often held as the best player in Barrow-in-Furness, but as soon as he steps across into Blackpool, suddenly he's out of his depth by then. I knew I'd get a text message ping on my phone within about 20 seconds of that statement.
Meanwhile, an uncharacteristic mistake from Tom Cousins going off there has gifted an opportunity that I'm sure John wasn't really expecting to get so soon. absolutely got to clear up from this position. Be shaking hands pretty quickly if he doesn't. But it's pretty hard to imagine how he's not going to. Just needs to punch this one in on and off the side cushion. Then just a natural angle to drop this bottom right. Still got the 2 visits in hand, of course. You can't really imagine him needing them, but it's an added insurance policy, just helps to settle you down. A lot of players over the years have ended up on the end of some pretty heavy defeats from Tom Cousins. John still sticking to the task, though.
I thought for a second he'd not come far enough, but it's okay. It's a little bit thinner than... Yeah, he's fine. No. Oh,
it's got the 2 shots.
2, of course. That was me not concentrating.
Yeah, if he hadn't had 2 shots, he did not hit that one well. Just choosing to set up, it's very easy to lose track even when you're playing. Who's got the 2 shots, never mind when you're watching. So, seeing some of the other scores there. Clint Jansen leading Darren McVicker 6 frames to 4. Phil Harrison 6-2 up against Luke Gilbert. Dylan Leary 5-2 against Cole Manning.
You never get a chance to get all the way to the bottom of the scoreboard when there's 28 tables. They
no, you just have to pick a few familiar names that people might know or be interested in.
Scott Price playing Dave Fernandez there at the bottom. Dave Fernandez is obviously one of the England players. Scott Price is probably more well known as a referee than a player, but pretty good with a cue stick. Also pretty good with a golf club from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, you often find you sometimes meet people in the capacity as an official or something at a tournament, but like most people, I guess, get into those things because they were players to start with. So pretty decent standard, even if you assembled the staff for the tournament. Well, in terms of controlling the white, this is better. He hasn't had the problem he's had the last couple of frames where the white's strayed towards the middle pocket. Not a bad split of the balls, although a couple of little clusters. And as we say, the comeback has to start somewhere. It'd be good to keep the well, not only would it be good to keep the momentum up, it would be essential to keep the momentum up because his opponent is only 1 frame away from victory. So John just needs to stay at the table and keep potting the balls right now.
Yeah, Tom will still be comfortable. He's obviously still got that 3-frame cushion.
Yeah, and the fact he's got 2 more breaks as well, and that will give him some added comfort.
Yeah.
This is a good opportunity, but it's not so good that it's an absolute formality for him. It's not as easy as you'd like when you're 6-3 down. Again, though, all credit to him. He's giving it plenty of care and attention, thinking the route through. And the problem if he goes for yellows is obviously the one sort of directly in front of him that's masked by that red at the moment.
I thought they were slightly straighter. I thought maybe he could open with the plant, but that's not quite there. But now he can play the yellow off of that, play the first yellow near the bulk line off of the other yellow. So this should open things up. I think that yellow is just going to go to the left-hand side of the table. So a good chance to open things up. And again, can control the cue ball. He's got the yellow in centre table. Yeah, that's good. Oh dear, absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. I say that's good. I didn't see the red ball tracking towards the left centre.
No, I mean, you wouldn't have known where that red was going, but like you wouldn't have picked it to end up in the centre pocket, would you?
That is unlucky.
It's a horrible way to end, and unfortunately for him, I think this will be the end.
Yeah.
Conversely, a lovely position for his opponent. Comes to the table 2 visits. The ball's all in moderately inviting position. Got a bit of work to do on the right-hand side. Could choose to screw down into, if you can, on the red above the black here. That would potentially open things up. But yeah, that's what he has done. I was going to say, we didn't have to do that. He could just have left a double or used the spare visit to open it up.
I mean, he should still be ABC stuff here with 2 visits, but still needs to develop the red just below the black.
Well, for Tom, this is a really routine long pot. I think some players will be a bit reluctant to take that when they've got 2 shots, because they're worried they might miss it, and then suddenly they're in nowhere near as good a position. But
I think he's so good at these shots as well. He's so good at judging these shots. He's left a lovely position now. It's just off straight. I think he can just top the white through off the side cushion and just flick the black out of the way and leave the other red. Or actually, is he going to play it? No, I think that's the shot he is going to play. Yeah. Oh, wow. I've cursed him again, but he's still carrying that other visit, so...
Yeah, I think if you didn't have 2 visits, that wouldn't have been that attractive a shot. It was quite easy to hit, but it wasn't that easy to hold the position.
Perfect leave, and this is the final nail in the coffin for Jonathan Bushnell. He will have to take his chances in the Open tomorrow, because it's going to be Tom Cousins will carry the flag through to round 3. So we bid farewell to Jonathan. As I say, he'll be in the Open and in the 3-man. Tom Cousins wins 7 frames to 3. I think that's probably the end of the action for us for today. We're going to pop down and have an interview with Tom in just a couple of minutes, but as for the action on the table, that's us going to wrap up for the day. We're back tomorrow morning. I think the action kicks off at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'm not sure if we're streaming that 9 a.m. Section, but more than likely it'll certainly be around 9-10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So do tune back in to Beard Productions to watch how this event unfolds. Mark, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us over the course of the day, and I'm sure we'll see you again tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's been some great pool today. Look forward to some more of it.
Brilliant. Okay, see you all soon.
Please let us know, as we are trying to try and get some matches on, so we don't go too far every minute. If you are in a room, just call you out, please let us know. Johnson. Ron Ward in the room.
I'm joined by Tom. Tom, we'll try that one again.
Yep.
So, yeah, a good convincing win.
I thought I played quite well there. Missed 1 or 2, but overall I broke well and played well.
Yeah, I mean, probably not a vintage performance from him, but I mean, sometimes you can only, you just got to beat what's in front of you, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, He had a couple of unlucky in-offs as well, to be fair, and that was just, I had a few easy chances and managed to take them.
Quality player, Jonathan, as well, isn't he? I mean, I'm sure you'd have crossed swords with him before.
Yeah, he is. His brother used to sponsor me, so we used to travel everywhere and play all the tournaments, and yeah, he's a quality player.
So we looked across in your first round match, you were playing Joe Nolte, 3-0 down. I've seen you in so many of these events where you just don't seem to get that good start, but then just seem to pile on the pressure after that. Is it just a thing? It takes you a while to get going?
Well, I had 2 dry breaks, and he cleared every time, so I hadn't actually done anything wrong. But I do like a slow start in these events.
Feeling good about your game overall?
Well, not really at the minute, Nick. I just got a new table last week, so now I can start putting the hours in, but I haven't really been playing too much. But just got a new table, so I'll start playing again now.
But you're looking good there, you're cueing the ball well.
Yeah, but
if that's Tom that's playing badly, then look at everybody.
Yeah, but that's just one match. I mean, you know what it's like. I play like that, and then next game I might not put a ball. So we'll find out in an hour or two.
We'll see you in the final, Tom. Best of luck for the rest of the event, mate. Cheers. Thanks very much for joining us. Cheers. So that's it for the action for today. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. start. Join us.